Now in Chapter 3, we're going to be working with decimals and equations. Prior to this, we were working with whole numbers. Before we actually get to equations, we're first going to be talking about ways that we can estimate, because sometimes in real life we don't need an exact answer. We can just get a sort of a ballpark figure. So I'd like you for a moment or two think about how you would describe estimation and give a couple of examples of times when you could use estimation and maybe other times when you actually need an exact answer or value. So in our first section, we're going to be talking about different rounding and different types of estimation. Once again, in the real world, problems sometimes require only an estimate to get as an answer. Other times, it's important that we have the exact answer. So you can round decimals when you don't need an exact value. But we need to know something about decimals and all their place values. So when I look to a number, I can have any number. I could have 7 and 28 hundredths. When I look to the right of that decimal, I have tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and so on. I can go to 10,000s, 100,000s, and more. So we're going to be rounding them, and the key to rounding is if the number to the right of the number that you're rounding to is 5 or greater, you round it up, and if it's less than 5, or should I say 4 or less, you're going to be rounding down. So we're going to be using rounding as a form of estimation. Here again, I have another little chart. I've expanded it just a little bit. To the left, I have my whole numbers. To the right, I have the decimal parts. And again, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, and so forth. When we read a decimal, that decimal is not said 3.2, it's 3 and 2/10. So we want to get in the habit of reading a decimal correctly. We're going to investigate 3 methods of estimation: rounding, front-end estimation with an adjustment, and clustering. And you see at the bottom of the screen here the symbol for approximation. If it's something is not equal to, we know equal is the solid 2 lines. Well, here these are a little wavy because it's approximately equal to. So I said it was important to know the place values. So let's talk about what the place value is of each of the underlined digits. I have 7, and that's in the hundredths place. I look at this next one, 115 and 483 thousandths. The 4 is in the tenths place. We'll do the rest in our session today. When rounding, once again, I'll repeat this more than once, you look at the place that you want to round to, and then you look at the number directly to the right. If I have 3 and 26 hundredths, and I want to round to the nearest tenth, I look to the place to the right. If it's 5 or greater, I will round up. That's telling me this number is closer to 3 and 3/10 than it is to 3 and 2/10. It's a little bit further on that side. If I had 42 and 621 thousandths, and I want to round to the nearest hundredth, I look to the right. If it's less than 5, it's going to round down, and I'm going to have 42 and 62 hundredths. I don't put a 0 there, okay? Leave it just like that. So again, let's try a few roundings. I have underlined the digit that I want to round to, and then I look to the right. And this number here is telling me whether to round it up or round down. Again, looking to rounding something to the nearest hundredth, I look to the right, and it tells me whether to round up or round down. If I want to round to the nearest whole number, this is the whole number here, I look to the right, and that will tell me whether to round up or down. And again, the same with the next. Once again, put your answers on your sheet in your notes, and we will talk about them in class. So we're going to first start off with estimating sums and differences, and we're going to be using that approximate symbol when we don't need the exact value. Then we're going to do the actual calculation to see how close it is to the real or actual official number. So we're going to be rounding, and it says round each to the nearest dollar. So again, we know the dollar would be right there, so I'm going to round to the nearest dollar. This would be $125. The second one, rounding to the nearest dollar, this 9 tells me to round up. It will be approximately $45. And I look to $18.50. This 5 tells me to round it up to 19. I'm then going to get the sum of that, and then while we're at it, I want to stop and take the sum of the actual, and then we are going to compare the two. So take a moment or two to write these down, and once again, no shortcuts here. Take the time to do the calculations, and let's see what we come up with. We're comparing actual to estimate. We'll be doing many more examples like that in class, so I'll leave you with that problem to finish, and we will once again decide together how close the estimate is to the actual.